One big thing that I've learned a lot, especially recently, and not just for this shoot, but just in general, is when you want to learn something, when you want to educate yourself, whether it's like a skill or like head knowledge or whatever, keeping things fun and using fun as a motivator to keep yourself going and to diversify the way that you learn is like the best way to do that. It's the best way to learn as much as you can in a short amount of time. It can be an instrument, it can be learning new terminology on a set, it can be doing a completely different job. And I think that's really why this experience was so incredible for all of us, is because not only were we able to be together and keep things lighthearted, but also the people that were our direct superiors, and even all the way to the top, their goal was like, we got to keep this light, we got to keep this fun, because we're here to have a good time, make something cool. And I think that's super important.
What's up, everybody? It's the Poorly Edited Podcast, the show where we put a spotlight on some of the most creative minds we can find. And this is the fourth time that I'm doing this intro because we've had a lot of technical difficulties. It's been a minute since we've been recording in person with our physical setup and everything like that, not over Discord. And we're a bit rusty, so bear with us, especially you guys. We're here with two very special guests. We have Alyssa Garcia, Zach Huntsicker. You probably may recognize Alyssa Garcia. She was on our show a year ago.
Yeah. December 21st, 2019.
Okay.
Check the episode.
All right. Chill out. She was on the show a year ago. Alyssa Garcia, amazing musician, talented artist, did the music for Daniel Roebuck's film Getting Grace. Zach Huntsicker. We went to college together, the three of us. We were in the film program together.
We were in theater together.
We were in theater class.
We did a whole scene together.
Yeah.
That we performed for the dean.
Apparently I was your mom.
You were my dad. You were...
Well, it was
we didn't want to add a gender to it, but you were my parent.
Yeah.
That went really well. We had a beautiful dance number where the music didn't cue up in front of the dean. It was great.
Nice.
Silent. It was very silent.
We worked on a short film together as well with Mitchell Fenn. Shout out to him.
Didn't we work on two?
We did some other projects.
Did studio work.
Little stuff for our assignments and all that. But so you're going to be seeing a lot more of them probably in the future because they're going to be helping us out with some things that we're doing for Lab 212. And Alyssa Garcia, you have a summer internship that you're doing at your college for Drexel. And for some reason, you chose Lab 212. We're still trying to figure out why.
Good reason.
Zach Huntsicker, you're also going to be, you've already helped us shoot. Oh, God. I slammed on that. That was the first one. I talk with my hands. You helped us shoot at the press conference that we did before the world shut down and everything.
Oh, snap. You were there for that. That's crazy. I remember that.
Yo, memories.
So you guys have different interests, obviously. Like, you're a lot more interested in audio for good reason. You're already very skilled at it. And, I think you progressing that even further, it's going to be amazing. And Zach, you're interested in the visual format, film and everything like that. And so not always going to be tons of, but, there's a lot more overlap than you think, and the skills transfer a lot more than meets the eye. I'll get to that in a bit, but because I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say this week. I think the three of us have a lot to say this week.
Very much so.
And I've learned so much this week. I'm very excited. I'm very sore. I'm very tired. But we were on... I'm Chandler Davis.
Does it matter at this point?
No.
It doesn't even matter. I'm Emma Farrow.
I'm Zach Gerhardt.
We got Lizzie Cates on the camera. We got Pat Lilly as audio technician. And
we've had a bit of a crazy week this week.
Had a crazy week.
Chandler and Josh and I did something that was very, very cool during this week and really kind of almost very necessary in the middle of all of the things that are happening and us coming back to work. We had our first official, it's first day back to school kind of moment.
And, oh, man, was it...
And it was a tough week back to school. There was a lot of homework.
Yeah. So we got crewed for a short film that was filming in the Lehigh Valley, predominantly in Hellertown. So I was crewed. We initially were crewed as just production assistants or PAs, the three of us, because we know a lot of the other crew, and so they reached out to us because they needed more hands. And then when we were what the fuck was that? Then when we were, oh, did you? Then when we were talking about, then when we were on a Zoom call with the crew leading up to it in pre-production, they told Josh and I we would be doing predominantly G&E work, which at the time, just for the frame of reference for, the long run, I had no idea what that even was at the time. And so I was like intimidated. G&E is grip and electric, which is essentially what I found out, what I learned this week, is a lot of carrying very, very heavy things. It's setting up lights, setting up stands like this, except if they were 75 pounds. Doing the dangerous, the dirty work, the stuff that you don't often think very much about. When you think about film production, you think about camera, you think about directing, you think about producing and writing. You don't really, at least me, as someone who was never interested enough in lighting and interested enough in like how to lay dolly track, to the point where I really got into it and learned about it. Yeah. You look at the lights, you look at the stands, you look at the sandbags, the track laid, everything, all that infrastructure so that camera could do their job. And it all seems very, almost like it happens. Right. It's just like, it's just part of it. It's just there.
It's the movie magic.
Yeah.
It's definitely a job that is not a thoughtless job. Like, you have to put so much thought and effort in planning ahead. You have to be very knowledgeable. A lot of people think it's just moving things from left to right. It's not at all. You have to be able to anticipate every move and anticipate every shot of what camera is going to need. So there's so much that goes into knowing every single part.
And it's not just that either. It's like the DP, the director of photography, has this vision, has this dream of like what he wants the shot to look like. And then he's like, okay, G&E, go do that. And it's a matter of like making that happen.
And you think that G&E just shows up for production and then they get to work. That's not true at all. They are there from day one of pre-production, so they can go through the entire thing with you, so they know how to get shots up as quickly as possible, because you are working with a very short amount of time. Even though they may be like, it's going to be a 12 to 15 hour day, that is a very small amount of time when you actually think about it to get done what you need to get done. And G&E is really the heart and soul of getting things up on time. Every single department matters, and it all comes together equally. But G&E just impressively gets everything together.
Normally on larger sets, grip and electric are two separate departments with two separate department heads. This was a very, I had no idea going in this, because it was a short film and I knew a lot of the crew. I was just kind of going into it like it was probably gonna be like a more casual thing. But when I got on set, it was legit. Like, it was a professional grade hierarchy and way of doing things, professional grade equipment, professional grade of work and effort.
Everything was like industry standard.
It was, most things were industry.
A lot of things were industry standard.
I mean, the kind of cameras we were rocking were not cinema cameras. We were rocking very souped up DSLRs, which can work and did for all intents and purposes.
I think because we weren't working with cinema cameras as well, there's a certain amount of like, I think the job description kind of changes a bit as well, because when you're working with cinema grade cameras, there's like a first AC and a second AC, and they have like very specific jobs of even like switching lenses and how to do that. But because you're working with like a DSLR, and that's an inherently different piece of machinery, those job titles and descriptions kind of change a bit. Like we didn't even really have a second AC for this shoot. It was really just the DP.
We kind of sometimes
flip on.
Sometimes be first AC depending on who was closer.
Second AC, because the first...
No, you're right. You're right. We would sometimes end up being second AC depending on who was close when they were switching lenses or something.
Exactly. But it'd be like a temporary thing, and then it would just go away.
AMRES ended up...
So I was supposed to be second AD, and so that's what I was told. I was
second assistant director.
Second assistant director, and that's what I was told that I would kind of be going in on. But what we realized, and what everyone kind of realized when they got onto the set, was that it was a smaller crew than we all would have had liked. You know, when you don't have as much of a budget as you would like, but also because of COVID-19, they didn't want to fill up the set with a bunch of extra people and extra PAs and extra people to do things, which they wanted to try to keep it as safe as possible. And God bless Beth Buckenmeyer-Kosmetzer. She was the producer of the film. She worked very, very hard to keep everyone on set as safe as she could. So that was really great. But we realized that a lot of people had to do many different jobs on set. So we all stepped in on many things. I was supposed to do second AD, so I did second AD, but I got to touch on and work with script supervisor, continuity, and props, which I really liked. And then whenever I could, help on G&E as well, which is really great. So we all got the chance to work with and talk to a lot of different departments and department heads. And they didn't have to, but they luckily took a lot of time to educate us and spend time with us, which was an amazing opportunity.
Which they didn't have to do, and that's something that was incredible.
And even the DP, like when he had the chance, J.B. Earl would take a step aside and help us and teach us, because he's a DP. He used to be, and he's been on the show. He was on the show for the Tom Antos podcast with Craig Friedland, who was DIT on
Craig
this
Friedland
film.
was DIT, JB was the DP, the director of photography. The DP, for all intents and purposes, controls the cinematic visual vision of how everything is really going to look in camera, and they set up the shot, the framing, the blocking. Like, the director obviously has an idea of what they want the scene to be, but it's the DP's job to really manifest it in the most visually pleasing manner. JB is amazing because he has a lot of background and experience as a photographer, a studio photographer. Thus, also by nature, he has a lot of experience with grip and electric. So it was really nice because he was able to communicate with us in a way that, because he had done it, he knew exactly what he needed and how exactly to say it so we could understand the quickest, as opposed to being like, bless you.
Sorry, I'm allergic to this mask.
As opposed to being like, you know, this is the scene, I need light to whatever, and just generally explaining, like, I want, you know, soft light, I want it to be this Kelvin maybe, or like this color light, and can you make that happen? It needs to come from like maybe whatever. But he knew very clearly exactly what to be asking for and how he wanted it, which is really nice.
And it was such a busy set. So I should say that it was 5 days. So the whole thing was 5 days. Not everyone was there for the full 5 days. Sometimes there was a smaller amount of people, depending on what the scene or the day required. But 5 days, and every day ended up being 13 to 15-hour days. So 13 to 15 hours. We had one 13-hour day. We had one 15-hour day, and the other three were about 13 and a half, 14-hour days. So very, like, strenuous days. It wasn't a lot of, like, just time off doing nothing. Everyone worked extremely hard. And so there wasn't a lot of free time for people to just sit around or teach or anything. But everyone still found the time. Oh, sorry. Which mic should I put? But everyone still really found the time to be able to teach us. And JB would come out and teach us about industry standard lights and high highs and combos and lollipops and all these different types of things, and just kind of go over things, or how, you know, the industry standard has updated or changed recently. And that was some really valuable information that he dropped with us.
Yeah, it was a really great crew, which it was a lot of people we already knew. I didn't have to meet that many people, but it was a great crew because everyone was very, for the most part, very positive, very outgoing, very hardworking, and very talented at what they did. So that was, because of how difficult those days were, it ended up being imperative. You know, it wasn't, you know, we were out every day except yesterday, which was the last day that we wrapped.
Which was still hot.
And we did G&E mostly, had to be running out in the heat to grab things and bring them interior. But for the most part, we were predominantly shooting exteriors in 95-degree heat with what Craig said was at one point 130% humidity on one of the days. So you would be in the shade and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It would be
Yeah.
absolutely
It didn't
no
feel different.
Yeah.
between
That's
being in the sun or not.
absolutely
First day was 15-hour day, all exterior in a cemetery. So there's like no shade at all cemetery, you know, and just doing your best with it. And everyone was still able to stay very, very positive. That was a really amazing thing to see and understand how to work even under those conditions, because oftentimes making a film, you don't have perfect controlled conditions, especially when you're doing a lot of independent work. You've got exteriors, you have super hot days or super, super cold days. And we've recently been on sets where it was freezing cold, and we had to hold like a B-board or whatever it was in like 10 degrees and our fingers are falling off, or it's 100 degrees and you have to do G&E in 100 degrees.
Guys, just shoot in the
heat.
spring or the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah, it's like,
come on,
does it need to happen?
Come on, dude. Schedule it for then.
That's why I'm so impressed by their ability to not only do their job in the amount of time that they were given, but also that they like pretty much everybody was willing to educate us whenever we had a question or whenever there was a moment where they were like, hey, this is where you can learn something. Huge shout out, of course, to Anthony Ellis and also Michael Owen for both doing that. Not
we
only
were working on
we were working directly with and not only were they like just like running constantly and working incredibly hard to make every shot work for Grip and Electric, but also literally every chance they had, whether it was us asking or them taking the moment to educate us, they did that. Which again, like they weren't required to do that
not in a condescending way.
exactly.
Never.
Yeah,
They never made us feel bad for not knowing something or not knowing terminology. And they were always like, look, dude, we've been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not going to know. Like, you have to be doing it for this long to be able to be that quick and know everything. So it's like, it's cool. And that was such an amazing environment. And if, you know, we had, you know, picked up and we had done to be in this industry, done the stereotypical thing of picking up and going to New York City or LA and getting on a set for the first time of that caliber, absolutely would not have gone that way. Absolutely would have been a much more difficult, a much more negative kind of tone, you know, and for a lot of people to not know how to wrap an extension cord the proper way. You know what I mean? Like something as little as that, people would get
or a stinger
irritated at. They wouldn't kick you off set, but they'd definitely be irritated a little.
Yeah, I think that there was just like we really went into it, and a couple of days before we went on set for the first day, we had that big Zoom call where we all got together and kind of set, and the call really set the tone for how it was going to be, and it was just about you know, love and respect and kindness and positivity, and that was really what everyone attempted at all times to bring to set and bring to every shot and bring to their work. And I have to give a huge shout out to Cuba Fernandez, who was our first AD. Absolutely amazing. He was incredible. He's the G Experience on YouTube. He's also an artist. If anybody wants to follow him, he's absolutely amazing. And he just said to all of us, we have to lead with love. We have to try to be respectful and always thinking ahead and being creative and collaborating, because even if you're in one shot, you should always be thinking ahead for the next shot to save on time. And I learned so much from him personally, but every single person really brought that type of energy, and you don't even realize how much of a difference that type of energy is going to make to your production. I think everyone brought that.
It's really important to have a crew like that you can really rock with and that you can have that energy with, because I am not messing around. That is, at a lot of points, was the only factor that would get anybody through what was going on at some point. Because it was, you know, they were running us hard. They were running the crew hard because of the weather, because of the conditions, because of the work that was required to do what in a lot of times were very complex shots or shots that were hard to manifest. You know, it wasn't just kind of this point and shoot kind of thing. And so, you know, we had to put together a 40-foot crane that we'd never put together. We had to go running for equipment constantly that was failing. A camera got fried on the first day. It was supposed to be a 2-camera shoot. A camera fried in the heat on the first day and blew. And so they had to switch cameras, they had to switch to being on sticks for the entire rest of the shoot instead of a gimbal. So they had to be on a tripod instead of a gimbal for movement. And that really changed a lot because they realized first day when they were shooting, they couldn't get what they needed with the gimbal. And it was taking up too much time to get the gimbal right and get it weighted right so that it could respond properly to the camera movements. So they just totally got rid of it and instead went on tripod most of the time. That then led to, I at least in hindsight, it seems, more dolly shots. And playing dolly track is annoying, especially if you're in a break room that is probably from this corner to maybe like where that green screen starts to like here, and you're in a room that size or smaller, and you have to fit a huge dolly track in, and it doesn't fit.
And so then you
have to literally go into the metal shop of the place you're filming in at night
with
and
everyone
cut the bars off.
And then the next
metal
morning,
shop so that you could fit the dolly in, and then the next day they need the dolly to be longer, so then you have to run out to get new pipes that are longer so that you can do a longer dolly.
I didn't even know about that.
That's a real thing.
Yeah,
but it's all good because
I didn't even know.
But it's really like
that's what happens.
And Anthony Ellis is very much like this, who was the key grip. Adapt and overcome. You have to be willing to adapt to the situation. Like if something happens, you can't just stand there for 15 minutes and complain about it and be like, well, this doesn't work. You're like, really? This is what we have to do? All right, let's do it, and let's go on and just be really, really creative and willing to have anything be thrown at you and still be positive about it and not drag your feet at all. Yeah. And that's what we didn't see anybody do. And you needed that kind of energy because you had to adapt. And who was it like? That energy really came from like Anthony Ellis and Jared Saperka, the first AC.
Michael Patrick Owen he's just this immovable machine who is never phased by any mishap. Like, G&E's thing a lot of the time is they have to be one step ahead of everything because if they're not ready, camera can't be ready to, when the camera's looking at a shot, the lighting has to be how it needs to be. It needs to be placed the way it needs to be. They have to be able to rehearse the camera movements or whatever. So if Grip and Electric is not ahead of them so that all that infrastructure is laid ahead before camera starts setting up, camera can't do anything. So
and then talent's just on set and they're sitting there and they can't do anything.
So you have to be 1 or 2 or 3 preferably steps ahead of everyone else if you're in Grip and Electric, because you have to be anticipating what's going to be next, what's going to have to happen next. And that's crazy as well. And I'll be honest, and so I kind of want to segue into, I want to go around, I'm going to talk about what I learned, because I think what I learned is cool for me and was really eye-opening for me. And then, I know you guys also had huge experiences too. And so the biggest thing for me is that I knew nothing about Grip and Electric before I got on that set. I knew absolutely nothing. I do this. We do commercial video shoots for clients and stuff, but I'd be opening our own light stands and running our own lights, and I would always not entirely even be sure how exactly to maintenance them, how exactly to, you know what I mean? Like there's always this bit of foreignness to stuff that had to do with that department. You know what I mean? It was something I was always like, I don't have to really know that much about it, right? But it's like wrong, and I learned how wrong that really was, and how much I was missing out in terms of being able to fully understand, because working in that department allows you to, like I said about J.D. Earl, the director of photography, understand everything else so much more and be able to communicate. I'm a huge believer in cross-training, even when you don't need it. You need it because if you're in a collaborative field, you need it. You need to be able to know and have tried stuff to know how to communicate with somebody. Like I'm glad I dabble in audio when I do so that I can be able to communicate with you on a different level. Of course, yeah. You know what I mean? When we get to that and film, you know what I mean? It's like, it's important to, even if you don't think it's what you want to do for the rest of your life, to still try it, because you're going to be working with music videos and doing media like that, and you've talked about and you've talked about that, and you recognize the importance of being able to understand the language both ways. And I love that. And so that stuff's so important. And I was really out of my comfort zone when I got there the first day. It was grueling. It was back-breaking. I don't really consider myself a very physically strong person. And I had just gotten back in the gym this week, like a few days before I had gotten to set. So I was still kind of sore from getting back into it after quarantine. And I was like, I'm not ready. There's no way I'm going to be able to handle this once I saw what was required. And by the last day, I'm like, I was hauling stuff over my head that I couldn't the first day. Like, I was so much more confident with everything. And I was so confident to the point where I was doing things I never would have thought I could even possibly do that first day I got there. Like, because I applied myself and I really learned and I really listened to the amazing people that I was working with very closely, I was able to pick up so much skill in such a short amount of time because it was the only option I had. If I didn't, then everything would have fallen apart and it would have been my fault, and I didn't want that. Mm-hmm. So it was a sink or swim kind of thing. And I learned that I'm not immune to like not knowing. And I never think I know everything, and I'm always willing to learn new stuff. But this one was so intimidating to me, so far out of my comfort zone, and I didn't think I could do it. I ended up being able to do it very well, but so much so that if someone asked me to be a grip on another production, I think I could actually do it. You know what I mean? And so that's crazy to me because it was something that I thought was so far out of reach that I realized through the hard work, through that persistence, you'll get. But it does take good teachers. It does take people that are willing to pass that on and to be willing to teach so that you can do that. And I think for a lot of the people on set, they were just excited to be around people who really cared about learning, because you don't always get that,
Yeah.
Like you don't always get that.
Not everyone that shows
so they
up
were
to set
excited.
is happy to be there. Yeah.
Right. I was talking to JB earlier, and it's like, it's cool that you guys are really about this, because we need it. Or maybe it was Michael.
Was it?
But
I was there. Somebody said it's really great to see that somebody actually still cares about film,
about this industry.
Yeah.
Because when you've been in it for so long, it's easy to get jaded. It's easy to be like, it's not the same. It's not going to, the kids don't care as much, when they get on set, they just so a lot of them were excited to see that there's still people that got that fire, you know what I mean? Like they used to, and still do really. So for me, like, I have a lot less fear now about this, especially in this industry. There's always kind of sometimes this veneer that some people have about like not being ready, whether it be for themselves inwardly or outwardly, to admit that they don't know everything, to admit that they don't know everything about every department, and that there's work to be done and there's things that they still have to learn. Because in an industry that's kind of like all about the smoke and mirrors, sometimes you like to give off the impression that you do, that you do know everything. You know what I mean? That you are more skilled and experienced than you are. And I had to drop that as soon as I got there, because all of them knew me from Lab 212, knew us from Lab 212. They knew we were working in this field alongside them, doing similar work as them, getting commercial paying clients and everything like that. And and for me as the person who was running that operation, you for someone who does so much to run that operation and is in a leadership position just like I am, and you to be as skilled as you are with the camera in the context of us, for us to be relegated to what we were doing and in the hierarchy of what we were doing to be so low, in that hierarchy, it was a check. For us, for me.
To be so low in a position that we didn't understand.
Exactly.
And low in a hierarchy does not mean you're less than or less important.
No.
When people think that, like they say above the line or below the line, it does not mean of less importance or value or intelligence or knowledge. That's not what it means at all. But we were just placed in positions that we hadn't prepared for, or before going on to this gig and being Jeannie and those different types of things. And we had to really work with it. I think what we learned, what we already knew about ourselves, but this was a good reminder, is that with the right teachers and the right resources and the right environment and attitude to learn and that motivation, you can teach yourself. Most people can teach themselves anything that they're passionate about or have an interest in being passionate about in a generally pretty short amount of time. What you can know from day 1 to day 5, completely different. You know, like some people are like, it's like going to it's not like going to the gym where you have to work a really, really long time to see results. If you really, really put yourself in a position where you want to try, it can take a very short amount of time for you to start seeing results in your knowledge and experience. That's definitely what happened to you too on G&E, absolutely. And even me a bit, because I got to step in on G&E.
Yeah.
One big thing that I've learned a lot, especially recently, and not just for the shoot, but just in general, is when you want to learn something, when you want to educate yourself, whether it's like a skill or like head knowledge or whatever, keeping things fun and using fun as a motivator to keep yourself going and to diversify the way that you learn is like the best way to do that. It's the best way to learn as much as you can in a short amount of time. It can be an instrument, it can be learning new terminology on a set, it can be doing a completely different job. And I think that's really why this experience was so incredible for all of us, is because not only were we able to be together and keep things lighthearted, but also the people that were our direct superiors, and even all the way to the top, their goal was like, we got to keep this light, we got to keep this fun, because we're here to have a good time and make something cool. And I think that's super important.
And what's important to remember with that is, just because something is serious and important does not mean it can't be lighted and have fun with it. So the set we were on was Purple Heart, and it was about a film about a veteran and his going to a cemetery every day to visit his wife that had passed away. And so that's very, very serious subject matter. It's very serious. It's very important. We had to be very respectful.
I mean, there's jokes.
There's some jokes. There's some jokes and there's some light in the script. Absolutely. But for some parts of it, you know, we're in a cemetery, we had to shoot there, being extremely respectful.
It's a film about respecting veterans.
It's a film about respect. It's a serious matter, but you can do that, and you can learn more in the process. But you can still be respectful, and you can still learn how to do that in a fun way. And I think the director and everyone on camera made sure to keep it light and fun and enjoyable, while not compromising on quality or respect at all. And all of those things can go hand in hand, and you don't have to compromise one or the other.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you guys, I know we talked for a while. I don't want to bore you guys. Do you guys have any questions? Because, I mean, you guys are also, you know, I want you guys to learn too. And if there's so much that I learned, not just about that department I was working in, but from the top down, like just at like on a personable level of how to be in that environment. There's so much. And I know you learned so much. I know you learned so much. We all had different experiences. But it was just a wealth. It was a treasure trove, you know, of information that we got. Is there any questions that you guys have? Is there anything that you want to know more about? You know, is there anything that you're interested in terms of the facets of something like this in a professional, like high budget grade kind of scenario for the visual medium?
I mean, you were saying how, you know, personable the environment was, and that's something that's foreign to me, because like if I think about like a professional set, complete like high grade equipment and all that, you know, it seems intimidating and really like cold and stoic and serious. I guess mindset is everything when it comes to that. Did you guys like, in terms of meeting the whole crew and stuff like that, did you guys have like a chemistry call or something, like something of that extent where you got to know everybody?
So
at first, okay.
So I think what you're saying, and just if I could just answer for a second, I'm not going to say that every single set is like the set that we were on. I'm going to say that every single set is different, and every actor, every person, every part of a crew will tell you that every set they've ever been on has never had really the same exact vibe. It's always different, and that is completely like contingent upon the crew that you have and how you decide to crew up your movie. Above the line, below the line, it all is very important. And they worked very hard to have a really great crew on this specific set. And we had known many of the people beforehand through FIFO, Fade In, Fade Out Film Consortium here in the Lehigh Valley. We had been working with many people, had several of them on the show. So we already had a decent chemistry and could interact with them. when
But there were also a lot of people we didn't
there
know
was
as
also people
well
we didn't know
or
hadn't had to
at
work
all,
with.
Right.
you know. And for those people, I'll be honest, and I don't know, you know, I don't want to make any assumptions, but for me personally, I'll speak from my personal experience. When I first got there, you know, in terms of that intimidation in that social level, I'm a very, like, in an environment like that at first, it takes me a little bit to like warm up
Yeah.
to where I feel like I can kind of, it's like I have to feel it out. Like, what can I say? What is
Right.
the norm here?
Yeah. With
You
anything.
know,
Yeah.
you want to have that
Of
awareness.
course.
But also, you know, I'm like a little, I can be quiet. I can be very like just, people can I honestly, a lot of the time people think that I'm like angry or something, or I'm like, I don't like
Same.
them because I don't talk a lot all the time at first when I meet new people.
Yeah.
You know, so it took me a while, but like it's that kind of thing where, you know, I had to go out of my comfort zone physically and everything like that. I also had to go out of my comfort zone mentally and emotionally to be able to kind of recognize the importance of, you want to try to build a rapport, something about the social level of being in an environment like that. And this is especially the case in places like New York City or Hollywood, where the networking is really important. Like, the connections that you make with people on a personal and social level is where the dividends really get paid in the long run. So it's kind of not in a nefarious way, not in an ulterior motive kind of way, but just you want to be able to try to build a rapport with people and to make friends and to make good connections with people, so that you know, who do you vibe with, who would you like to work with
People
again.
want to work with.
Yeah, and
Right.
build those connections with the people you really like, and build those connections. And so that was a really big thing. And I, you know, so I had to drill into my head. It's like, well, look, if I really like these people, if I really want to work with them again and have that opportunity again, have that pleasure again to work with them, I have to give a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're very busy. I'm very below the line. I'm a PA, so they're not going to always be going out of their way to get to know me. You know what I mean? Just on their own accord. So I kind of have to put myself out there a little bit more, which is very out of my comfort zone in situations like that.
Yeah.
And so that was something I really had to push myself for. And really, that's just a matter of, like, you know, with anything, is you just got to do it. It'd be a little awkward sometimes. And I had that at first. But, like, by the end of it, it was just like,
It was like it becomes a family.
everyone knew me, like,
Yeah.
everyone, you by name, like, it was cool, like, everyone was so nice to me, to you, to Amres, and it was just a really great vibe, you know, very little ego, you know, none of that, you know, like that kind of stuff, and that's where you want to be, and that's the kind of people you want to surround yourself with, you know what I mean?
And it's not to say that every single set will always have that, but I think you really get back what you put in energy-wise to the universe and to the sets that you're on. And if you just show up, whether or not everyone around you is ideal or not in the way that they're acting, just especially when even if tensions are high, there's a lot of pressure. We're on, you know, we have to be shots of in 20 minutes, and it's going to take 3 hours to get to shots of, or it's super hot or it's super cold. Either way, just try to be as positive and you can, and emit that energy. Just exude that positivity, that good energy. Be alert and willing to adapt to anything. Be motivated and be willing to just help. Stay in your hierarchy whenever you can. Stay in your hierarchy. Communication, consistent communication. Very important. Be able to communicate even if it is a little awkward or weird, or you're scared to interrupt someone and ask. Just communicate and be positive, and people will really see that. Be willing to talk to them, and if you see in an appropriate way that somebody has a second and you can appropriately have a chance to walk up to them, talk to them about it, about what you're interested in, because oftentimes they love the thing that they're doing and they got into this business for a reason, and they'd be happy to give you a few minutes of their time, either now or talk to you after the set wraps and give you a few minutes to talk to you about the thing you guys are both really passionate about, and then you guys can connect. And we found that a lot on set, and that's just how we bonded with a lot of the people.
Sorry. No, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, I just like springboarding off of that. I forget what day it was. I think it might have been day 2, like wrapping or whatever. And you're not normally supposed to, as a member of G&E or even like a PA, to directly communicate with the director of photography. There's a hierarchy, and you're supposed to communicate to your department head, and the department head communicates to the first AD, and then the first AD kind of manages all of them. But JV Earl, and I can't give enough props to this guy.
I remember, but I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was the end of day 2, and we had wrapped, and I didn't even I didn't even ask a question. He was literally helping and this is the director of photography, helping G&E put stuff away in the trailer. And he just starts talking about stuff, and I just ask questions, and he keeps talking. And by the end of it, we had spoken for like 45 minutes about camera.
No way.
And it was just like, I walked away from that like, I never would have gotten this anywhere else. Like there's no other set I could have been on right now where the DP would have been talking to me, not only respectfully and like peer,
as a
peer, but also to like answer questions that I had and like give really valuable information. And so it was like that kind of set.
And that was just a testament to, and that wasn't a thing that just JB did, something that many people did. That's a testament to how amazing the people were on set, and they really walked the walk and talked the talk, and you really
wow.
Oh my God. Crazy,
like stop dying, you know, like
and when you're on a film set, you really do want to respect hierarchy, and it's not like the director should be doing all of G&E's job, because he has his own job to focus on, and that's why every department has their own job. But especially when it's a smaller or independent film, and everyone, it's not a huge Hollywood film, to step in and help out when you can and if you can is so great. And you had like the director, Mike Walsh, who also wrote this film. He was there like whenever he could, helping G&E out. And we're like, no, it's okay. He's like, no, I want to be here. I want to help you. Everyone, like camera, like director, first AD, he was stepping in whenever. And that's a really good energy to have, and never have that I'm entitled to, this is my position, so I can't help out someone else thing. If your department head or first AD tells you it's okay and you can have a minute, always help out. Always learn. If you have a few minutes to learn about something,
ask questions if you can.
Ask questions if you can. Step in. You're never above or below. It doesn't matter what the line is. You're never above or below doing any job, whether it's taking out the trash or helping out camera or doing G&E.
Yeah.
Like never.
Yeah.
And
there's a certain way that you kind of want to maneuver yourself when appropriate, obviously when it's not going to hinder anything and be going out of your hierarchy and jumping that line. But there's times when there's downtime G&E set up, but camera needs something, and the first AC comes over and he's like that. Josh had to hold. So for example,
this is a whole story. Go ahead.
For example, Josh had to end up. So he was on G&E. He ended up having to rig that. We could show the photo or something.
We'll put it up in post.
He ended up having to rig all of this so the fan could blow on the camera, so it didn't blow up the second camera.
God.
And so he rigged all that up. So he's sitting there and he's manning the fan so it doesn't fall, because there's wind, there's uneven terrain, and so he's guarding it to make sure it doesn't fall. And then by nature of that, he's in very close proximity to the camera crew. So then he gets to ask questions about camera, and so then he gets to learn more about camera, and then they also learn that he knows about camera because it allows him a chance to shine and
for sure
drop some terminology, drop some knowledge where you're like, I understand this thing. And so then the next time that you're demonstrating your versatility, you're demonstrating your interest. And I don't know if you ever explicitly said to them camera is where I would like to be, kind of thing.
I don't think I did, but it was very accidental getting there. Because it was right after the first camera had blown up, and people were like, how do we cool off the second camera, make sure we don't repeat this? And no one said anything, and I was like, hey, there's a box fan sitting around the corner. Do you want to just blow that thing at it? And they were like,
and then
all right.
And that's how a lot of ideas manifest, that problem solving.
And then after you left set, they ended up doing your idea
That's so funny.
Several more times.
So funny.
And it's it's such a good idea to take these opportunities when they come. Say you're a singer-songwriter, you want to be in a certain part of film, and somebody calls you up and they offer you an opportunity to be a key grip or a gaffer or a PA, and you're like, that's not the thing I'm interested in. Nobody got to where they wanted to be in film and were just handed the opportunity that they wanted from the get-go. They worked their way up. And so you take that opportunity, you learn a lot, you get to make connections and kind of make your mark. But also remember, if you accept a position that isn't exactly where you want to be, make sure that other people know that in the most respectful way possible, that's not where you plan to be. You know, he worked his ass off in Genie. People didn't know that he is interested in camera. So when you're having those down times, you can be like, hey, I'm also really interested in camera, and they may not know that you're interested in that position because they only saw you in a different position, and you can let them know, hi, I'm in G&E right now, I'm loving it here, I really want to be in camera someday, and then they know, and then they can call you up later on and be like, oh, we have an opportunity for you because we remembered the conversation we had on set, you're a singer-songwriter, we may need a score for our next film, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Giving that,
It's working hard but
Yeah.
being honest about your intentions
Of
at the
course.
same time, you know,
Yeah.
because you can do both. You can be like,
Right.
hey, I'm really
Exactly.
cool with where I am and I'm learning a lot,
Yeah.
but, you know, like,
Also, I have other interests. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
honesty of it is humbling too. Just to
Yes.
be like, this is not what I want to do, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I'll do
yeah.
it, work hard at it, and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I said that. I said to the
Yeah.
dudes on G&E, I was like, hey, this is not, I've never done this. This is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But, you know, and so it's cool. Do you have anything, Zach? do you-
Well, for me, from my background, I work, some jobs that I've done is work at a local news station, go to broadcasting and production. So I kind of got your feel about it, but I never worked on the Hollywood side of it. I've worked on more news and broadcasting film. I also did a telethon shop. We had I think a 12 camera setup at Montage Mountain.
Oh, nice.
And running lights, so I knew how to do that because I'm part my job description for that company was crew, so that means I have to hook up wires, so kind of like what G&E work because I knew I had to work all that stuff, and then so I learned a little bit about that and talked with many people who've been in the industry for almost older than me, they were doing stuff, and this one dude was in New York, and he managed a security company and managed cameras and stuff like that through that. So that was cool to learn. And then through there, talking and saying, hey, could I possibly learn how to do graphics? And I started to learn how to do graphics and being able to pop them in and out on while the production's going on, which got me closer to the director because how a big production truck
Yeah.
you see
When you're broadcasting, yeah.
yeah, you see those ESPN big thick boy trucks. It's really cool. It's really cool. AC wise, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, how it's set up is there's the director sitting where Josh is, and then the graphics dude sitting where I am, and they're constantly in communication with each other. Then the slow-mo replay guys are in the back. And you just have that close connection with people, and then just overall that downtime that you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
That's how I was able to learn a lot of replay. I talked with the audio dude
Exactly.
and helped him out a couple of times, and just I was able to get headshots and stuff like that. That when they throw up stats and stuff like that, I was able to have an opportunity to go out and showcase my photography skills because they had faith in me. And knowing I know my stuff.
That's right. That's awesome.
So I was able to do that and get my stats and make the graphics for stats and stuff like that. So that's where I was able to learn the news side of stuff, which was really cool. And I know a couple people remember Liam?
Yeah.
He actually works at the same studio, and he's master control there, setting everything up.
nice.
Yeah, so I was able to talk with him, and he showed me some stuff that he learned through working there, which was really cool. So yeah, just you never know where one person that we knew in class was that he knew me, so he was able to be like, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is how I got here.
Yeah.
And showed me some steps to move up through
That's
this.
rad.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
That's rad. Wow.
Yeah.
And Liam's working in Master Control now. That's
Yeah,
dope.
Master
That's so
Control.
Didn't you work in Master
I
Control?
did very briefly. I worked in Master Control at a private station, and it's really there's
Yeah, it is.
there's a lot because not only are you ingesting actual shows for whatever station you're working at, but you're also quality control and management of all the machines that they use for both broadcast and ingest. It's it's such a wide field, and there's just so much that my I think it was 2 years at that station didn't even cover the basics of what it takes to manage and maintain that stuff. So that's awesome that he's working in Master Control.
Yeah.
That's a lifelong you could spend a long time working on that. That's crazy.
Nah, and it was a very open studio. So even after when I wasn't like going out to sporting events for high schools, I'd be able to come back and just chill there for like a bit, talk with like Liam, and then I talked with like some of the news anchors, so like the people on talent, and they were telling me different stuff that they've picked up with. It was like a very small like company or like news station, so I was able to like communicate even with higher up. So like the three people that like controlled the station, I was able to have a conversation with them and gain some experience from them on like what it takes to like run a station too, which is really interesting. And
that's crazy.
It's really and like different, like all it takes for like budget reasons and all this.
But budget is
budget.
That's where it is. that's why everything happens that you see happen, because
budget's an interesting thing, and you really do see the decisions of budget during production a lot, but you also get to see the creativity that people come up with, depending, on what we couldn't do this, so we decided to do this, and this might have even though this is kind of the rigged choice we had because we had no other choice, may have worked even better. So budget's a really interesting thing to me, and how that gets done, and certain decisions like get made based on what your budget is, especially in independent films.
100%.
Oh, another thing that is also important that I had to learn very fast is location scouting. So because we would go to like high schools, like indoor like basketball games or even outdoor football games and baseball games, we had to know where to put our truck to set up our cameras to get and run wires to. And then like sometimes there was this one instance where we went to a school, we ran all of our wires through the door. Then they like kind of the head honcho comes over and goes to our director and goes, you kind of have to rewire this. And it was like 30 minutes before we had to actually shoot. So we all of us, all the crew, I think it was like a 12-man crew, all of us just quickly unhooked everything, unwinded or rewinded them, then unwinded them again, and to go just a slight minor adjustment. And if we would have taken a second to notice that, a second more to notice it, then we wouldn't have had to. We could have just like sat down and
avoided that.
Because it was like we ran it through a door, but they wanted us to run it through a wrap. I don't know, like the white cap things that are pipes that you can the cable things that
like through a wall, right?
Through the wall. It was like slightly off to the top corner of the door frame that we wouldn't have fully noticed unless we were really looking for it, but we didn't, and that was our main issue. And we had to unwire everything and then untape everything too, because we gaff tape that stuff, especially if we go over door frames and stuff, because tripping hazards and stuff. So we had to undo all that and then redo it again in under 30 minutes.
That's a really important thing. Pre-production is so important.
But you can't do that with the news.
Huh?
Like,
you can't always.
You can't always do that. When somebody's just like, we need to get. I mean, if it's something that's planned ahead, you can. But if they call you up and they're like, there's something we've got in 12 hours, you don't have the opportunity to do that pre-production. And it is so amazing what they are able to do in such a short amount of time on the fly, because you're only ever working with on the fly. And then in film, you don't get to, and even in TV, you get to do way more on the fly, because you have like 8 days in between every episode, and oftentimes you've got 2 whole crews going at once. But in film, you don't. I mean, you can get good at working on the fly.
You can do a lot of pre-production. I think this film that we worked on, they had a long time of pre-production. I think
they did a lot of. They did a lot of
6 months, wasn't it?
Several months of pre-production leading up. I mean, there was a lot of downtime. Several months of pre-production. But even with all of that pre-production, we get there the first day of bulk day shooting, because the day before was the only day I wasn't there, which they were just doing drone stuff.
It wasn't real on set.
It wasn't like a real call time or anything for the whole crew.
I think Jonathan Edwards and JB was that pretty much.
So the first day, the camera blows. They decide they can't use the gimbal. That changes a lot right off the bat, and that's something that no one could plan for pre-production. And so now everything has to change on the fly, and now you have to problem solve. And therefore, everything on the shot list kind of has to be tweaked because you're running with a different setup. You know, they were planning on they were planning on a 2-camera shoot. They were planning very efficient shooting, as in one camera was planning on actually getting inserts for a completely different part of the movie, while another camera was shooting a different angle that would be used for a different part of the movie, essentially shooting 2 different shots at once.
And they'd be working around each other.
And they'd be working around each other strategically.
Yeah.
Then the second camera wasn't there. So now it became a 1-camera shoot, and now we had to separately shoot all those scenes. It changed everything. You know what I mean? And you can't plan for that. So,
and every 5 seconds, your first AD had to be rechanging the schedule and rechanging what shots in what order, and constantly working with camera and being like, all right, we just have to run with it throughout the day. Everything is changing. You know, you ideally would have your call sheet and your scenes and everything, and then that's how it is for the day. And then sometimes you get on set and it's not at all.
We got on set for the last day, I think, or it was the day before. I think it was the last day.
Was it cemetery?
No, it was when we were at Walsh's house.
So that was the last day.
We're on set the last day, and JB's drawing up a new shot list and light plot for some of these shots because it's, you know what I mean?
You have to at that point.
You have to at that point. And so he's literally, and I actually posted it on my story on Instagram, like he's literally blank piece of paper, and he was drawing right in front of me right after the production meeting and going over it with G&E.
That's so cool.
So I'm there, and he's like,
that's
okay,
awesome.
And they're communicating.
Wow.
That's how, you know, and you have to be able to adapt. That's like the biggest thing on the fly, that adaptability, that willingness to be flexible and be ready for anything. You know, there's no time for anyone to respond with no.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To something that needs to happen.
About it.
Yeah, there's no time.
And what I love the saying that it's just like, it's not necessarily the smartest or the strongest or the prettiest that will succeed. It's those that are most willing to adapt to change.
Yeah.
That's huge, yeah.
Yep. And in an environment like that, that's very high octane, very fast paced, like I said, there's a lot on the line. There's a lot of money and budget on the line, like thousands of dollars, and all these people's time, their scheduling that they blocked for this thing to be done. Like, there's a lot riding on it. You know what I mean? You get a crew of 25 people that are all doing their thing. If something goes wrong, you have to be ready to fix it, or else, you know what I mean? That's a whole trickle down effect. And so everyone has to be on their game, and that was a big thing that I had to learn too, is that you have to be able to be ready for things to go wrong and almost expect it to go wrong. Yeah. And that way you're not surprised. That way you're ready for it to happen. That way you're ready for that plan B at all. You kind of always want to have a plan B. You really,
and a C and
a D. You don't really want to expect and conduct yourself as though plan A is always going to happen. You want to be ready for that plan B. And I'll be honest, I hate pre-production. It's
love
not my strong suit. Yeah, you love it.
I love pre-production. That's my thing. And that's where I came from. So, like, we've been working on the Hail Mary for a while, and then working on a channel of Peace Films and planning those things out, working with Daniel Roebuck, working on those different types of things. And I love the pre-production. So, organizing the location scouting. I'm more of a producer. I was interested in getting everything together for continuity and how we were going to do props, how we were going to organize talent and extras, all of those different things. Because being on set, I learned so much. I knew some of these lessons, not all to the extent, and the lessons I learned were not nearly as fully developed as they became this week when I got to step into second AD and work around props and the producers, script supervisor, first AD, continuity, and realizing how every single part, post-production, production, and pre-production, how they all work together. And you can tell how good your pre-production was when you're in production. You can tell how great the pre-production and the production went when you're in post-production. You can tell how well your post-production is going to go and how well your production is going to go when you're in pre. Every single one, they all lean on each other. It's very, very important. So that's why I love pre-production so much, because it's the start. And once something happens, you can't go back in time. You can't go back in time. You know, there's that joke, like, we'll fix it in post. You can't go back and fix everything in post. It's just not going to happen. You can't hand the editor a bunch of like pile of crumbles and just be like, what can you do with this? You need to plan ahead. So that's why I love pre-production so much, because I'm, I want to be organized. I want to be able to think about the continuity and the script and how things are going to work together. And thinking in pre-production, how am I going to market this and do social media and get BTS during the entire shoot? So we have this for marketing it later. And so that's why I just love the pre-production aspect. And I got to learn so much from Cuba this week, and from reviewing camera, and from seeing, Craig Freeland went around and was getting BTS and gathering that throughout the entire set. And I think the lessons I learned from the shoot was just like, start in the beginning, don't start later. Don't think you could just pick it up later on. If you know that I think when you start a project, whether it's your own personal thing or it's a big film set, you have to start in the beginning and think, what is everything that's going to need to get done in production, and in post, and start on it in pre-production, because you can't go back later. And that's why I personally love it. But you're not a pre-production guy, and you're just a little different than me, because I'm not.
And I need to get better at that, because it's almost not an option to not be pre-production. If you want to really make good stuff, especially independently, like, I make a lot of videos on my own. I make, there's a lot of stuff I want to do. And, you benefit so much. The more planning you do, you benefit so much. Even if it doesn't go as planned, having gone through the process cognitively to develop a plan allows you to have a better framework for even when things go wrong and you have to adapt. You at least have somewhere to work from. And it just makes you feel so much more secure, especially when you get on location and it's go time. Yeah. It's nice to have some material to be like, okay, like I have this crutch, and not a crutch, but like I have this safety.
It's definitely a safety. I kind of said what I learned. Was there anything else, Josh? Was there anything else Josh wanted to add? Because
Josh has been quiet.
I didn't know if you had any.
No. You guys pretty much covered it, and I said my piece. I think that the biggest thing really is like, it's just this like weird dichotomy between like I'm so happy that I was on set to learn the terminology and to learn from people that have been in film for like just way longer than I have. But at the same time, like strapping a box fan to the top of an Apple box to cool a camera down, like there's also like a very much like a roll with the punches kind of mentality that they brought with them. And so like those things like shouldn't coexist, but they do. And when they do,
really good.
You know what I mean?
It's a really good one.
But when they do, it's awesome, because it's like it's the best of both worlds. You have the ability to like know that this is how things should go, but when things don't go that way, they're like, all right, I don't know.
We have a $5,000 camera rig, and this is our solution to cool it down, and it's a $5 solution.
It's just like a dollar store box fan.
No, I was just adding on to that.
Where I was going to go is I like hearing the behind-the-scenes stories, because knowing the field, just like taking classes in the field and having a degree in the field, then you start hearing behind the scenes, and then you even see behind the scenes like shots like that, specials that you see on like DVDs and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh shit, I know how to do that, and I can bank it and do it. Like one thing that I just learned like within the past year is how they shot the famous Matrix scene where they like it was like 12 cameras, just cameras, DSLRs, and they took shots, just pictures. It's all pictures. I didn't know that.
It was revolutionary. It was a revolutionary shot.
And so like I didn't know that until I saw this video of like how they shot this scene, and I'm like, that's actually an interesting take. I didn't realize that. And then like just even watching like just any movie in the field, I casually go, you kind of just pick up, be like, oh, I know how they shot that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to learn behind the scenes. And I know how they plan that.
It is really cool to get to see camera, to get to see, we got to work with, and I got to work with Jonathan Edwards and his drone company, and he was going around. So like getting to see all of that stuff and how they do everything was amazing. And I'm very grateful to every single person that we got to work with on set. Mike Walsh and Alicia Walsh and Beth Buckenmeyer-Klausnitzer.
Big shout out to Beth for crewing us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like in
big
general.
shout out to Beth Beth and Alicia were the co-producers, and shout out to Mike Walsh, the director. Just everyone on that set was amazing, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to have learned as much as we did this week.
Yeah. Honestly, when you said about that professional grade, when you watched it behind the scenes and stuff, you ingest a lot of content, whether it be music, whether it be film or whatever. It's really fun to get to work in a capacity where you're kind of on a more professional grade of how to do things. And then you see that even though it is supposed to be this higher level that everyone's on, and they are, in terms of their skill and their plans and their vision, things still don't go right all the time. And like, no matter how professional things are supposed to be, there's always like people make mistakes, like things go wrong. And yeah, it's like, you think like on a really small thing, like you mess up and you kind of beat yourself up about it, or you go back and you might listen to your old music, or I might watch my old videos or something and be like, it's cringe. Yeah, you like cringe at it. You're like, oh, it's so bad. But you also think like everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
At the highest level you can think of, they're making huge mistakes. They're not perfect. They go back and look at their old stuff and think it's terrible too. Like they have all that. And so this ability to kind of realize that no matter how far along you are, you always have more to learn, and you're always going to be capable of making mistakes. It's such an important headspace to be in. I'm very guilty of like beating myself up about mistakes and stuff like that, and being like, I knew better. I still like, why?
And even Tom Antos said that when he was on the show, and talked about that a bit. And Tom Antos actually dropped into set this week, and he brought that up a bit. He was just like, sometimes I look at my other stuff and I wasn't too happy about it, but I love seeing. And he was talking about how he loved seeing people that were newer and just in the process of looking at their own stuff, because he's excited to meet them in a few years when they go back at it and learn the lessons that they learned. Yeah. It's
and then the only other thing I can say, and just a statement purely that paid dividends for me from the framework I was operating on is whatever you're doing, and whenever you do get an opportunity to prove yourself. And this is, very much an opportunity, because there are people we didn't know. Yeah. It's not like we had a huge rapport with every single person. For sure. So we had to prove our value to these new people as well. And in this environment, because it's also not an environment we worked collaboratively with even the people we did know on that level. So big thing was, no matter what, and even if, like in my case, I didn't know anything about what was going on at first, you just give your 100%. You know what I mean? And like, it killed me. I'm hurt. Like, I'm sore. I barely slept. But like, I gave it the 100%, and I feel as though people noticed and people respected it, and people thus are going to be trusting in the future. People are going to remember that and remember what you gave and what you put in. Yeah. And I know it's cliche, because people usually say you get what you put in, that's what you get back. But it's so true. It's so true.
And what I'll say is, and somebody said this to us on set, they were like, you don't necessarily have to know everything or be the absolute best, but your energy and your positivity and your willingness to just give it your all is so important. And so, I don't know who said it, but they said, people won't remember what you did or what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And if you made them feel like you wanted to be there, and you were giving your 100%, and you were working your ass off, and you were really positive and not complaining, people are going to call you up again, and you're going to get more opportunities to collaborate. So, I think that's about how.
Well, I want to piggyback and just comment on the fact, like what you guys are saying is, this is like, that's why I love this industry. It rewards. Like other industries, you could be hardworking for all your life and they barely give you table scraps. But this industry, you work hard, you actually work hard, you put enthusiasm, and you just learn everything. You get rewarded. It's a grind, but that's why I love it. Is because they actively showcase that.
It's fulfilling.
Yeah, it's fulfilling because you learn stuff and they learn stuff as well that they might not have known even 60 plus years
Yeah.
in the industry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. I'm feeling for time because we're switching cameras. So there's like, keep the camera on me. I was trying to think of something to say, but I'm
Yeah.
feeling for time right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working in
No, you're good.
the various, the
Do you
various
have any little nuggets?
No, man. I mean, it's pretty much just like, yeah, I really vibe with what you said, Chandler, which is just like this concept of like, they're not going to remember what you did, how you did it, and that you threw yourself into it and that you gave your all. And they're going to, it's more of like, it's less of a contextual thing. Like I remember what they did as much as it's more, I remember the impression that they made, which was
Yeah.
wow, they're really
Yeah.
throwing
Yeah.
themselves at this, you know? So
Yeah.
which also does piggyback onto
Yes.
like my statement is
Yep.
they will not acknowledge that, and
Yes.
they won't just be like, oh, we can just write this
Exactly.
off. They will call you guys. They will call you guys again. They might give you like bigger opportunities
Mhm.
Yeah.
than just G&E
Mhm.
or yeah, is it G&E?
Genie? Yep.
Yeah, G&E. They might actually let you guys,
Mhm.
you two, like touch cameras,
Mhm.
like, or even plan shots.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys could be plan shots, and then, I mean, you were given a lot of responsibility from what you were describing.
There was a lot of responsibility, especially for the first couple of days. I was on helping with talent and extras and blocking all of the extras and planning ahead and helping first AD out and helping a bit with the continuity and props. So I was kind of all over the place, definitely a bit. And I learned so much. It was really very fulfilling. You get up every day and you're sore and you're tired. And other people do this full time for a living. They do it out in Hollywood. They are, they have contracts with shows or with films. And like you're tired and you're sore. It's very long days and you're away from your company or your business or your family. But you wake up every day and you're like, I have a purpose. I have purpose. I am a part of this well-oiled machine that all works together. And I think it's a very fulfilling thing to be in. Even if you're not necessarily starting at the place that you want to be, it's a foot in the door is more than most people get the opportunity to do. So take that little bit of an inch and just stretch it as fast as you can.
Stretch it as far as it can go.
Stretch it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that, and I will keep talking to you because we have so much more nuggets of
Yeah,
information.
we're done talking to you.
We're done talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in my head how much I know that you want to be able to be multi-purpose. Like you want to be able to do many different things. So we have so much wisdom, even more that we have to drop onto you, that we would unload on you in the coming weeks. But I was thinking of you specifically wanting to be. And are a singer, songwriter, and how you have your own visions. And you were just talking about your lyric video for Running just came out.
Yeah.
By the way, Alyssa just made a song. It's called Running. It just dropped on July 3rd. It's amazing, so go check it out.
Thank you.
Alyssa Garcia on her YouTube channel and follow her on Facebook because some pretty great stuff. I'm a fan of your music,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
100%.
But I think where I'm really interested in is that pre-production and producing and getting all those details together. It's so important for someone like you because you are going to be working on your vision and making sure that vision doesn't get taken away from you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know that you're a respectful person, you're a collaborative person, you're willing to work with people, but when you put your heart and soul into something and a project, you don't want it to just be taken away and become something completely different.
For sure.
So that's why I think for you specifically, that pre-production process of you writing down every little note of what you see and what you put it into song, but what you see when you write your song and what you hear and what kind of colors you see for each song and the types of people and the location you see, all of these different types of things. I know you have a full vision when you're writing that music down, and it's supposed to all come into a few specific words in a song.
Yeah.
But just because the song only has a few specific words doesn't mean on the side you can't make all of those notes in docs and keep them in your drive just to have in case you or someone else buys the song and they're like, what should we do with this, or what should we do with music video with this, and you're able to be like, well, I've got that all ready for you. I have all of the notes on what this is supposed to be right here, the colors, the smell, the taste, everything.
Are you interested in, in a scenario where you would, someone comes and says, hey, we have a budget for you to do a music video, what would be, where would you see yourself in that process? Would you just want a director to come on and to do their thing, a whole crew to just do their thing from the top down. That is an approach that I see. There's the artists themselves directing, you know, in whatever capacity that might be. It could even be totally DIY. You don't hire a professional crew.
For sure.
You do it very, very dirty. And
Script supervisor, just supervising.
yeah, would
what the
you know,
script is supposed to be.
essentially supervising, like, is this the, you know, like, what is your ideal scenario? You get a budget, you have free reign to approach it however you want. Like, what would be your ideal?
I think there's definitely a balance. I mean, personally, like, I've never done a music video, so I don't know much about the technical side of it. But with any song, with any project, it's so personal. And I want to make sure that the message is completely there, the way I want it, the way I pictured it, so that people can really interpret it in their own way, but also, you know, see where I came from when I created the piece. So I'm very particular about, you know, sound and visuals and how much that can impact the message of something and how that can make someone feel, or how much they'll remember it or like connect to it. So personally, like, I would love to be able to direct the music video, and at least in terms of like the vibe of it, the aesthetic of it, the visuals and stuff like that. You know, but on the technical side, I've never actually directed a music video, so I'm more than willing to be like, just take that step back and let them do their magic too, and learn from that as well. So there's definitely a balance that I would love to find.
I think as someone who would want to direct in a scenario like that, like I said about, you know, I feel personally that, and there's tons of examples either way, it's a spectrum, there's tons of examples in every part of the spectrum for how much technical knowledge a director can have in order to be highly efficient. You know, there's directors who that have great bodies of work, that are very technically savvy, and there are also directors that have great bodies of work that are not as technically savvy. You know, so, but I kind of err on the side of, like I said, with anything, it's important that cross-training, to direct. You're in a position where you're having to communicate a lot of different things to a lot of different people that have a lot of different jobs. And obviously you can't, I mean, you can, but it won't happen right away where you're going to be an expert in everything.
Course, yeah.
But to be able to have a foundation of knowledge in every area, like, I am such a strong believer, just goes miles and miles. Like, to creating a better product, to be able to be more efficient and in that role. So as someone who would, in that scenario, would want to direct, like, highly recommend, you know, just trying or learning about, you know, the different facets.
It's like learning a language, honestly.
100%.
If you learn someone else's language, the more they like connect with you, the more they feel more comfortable. So I completely resonate.
And when you're learning a language, you got to speak the language, and you want to be around
Exactly.
people who speak the language and to be able to communicate. That's such an important thing.
Right.
So it's like, you know, you can do the theory. We did the theory.
Yeah.
It doesn't do nearly as much as hands-on does, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, when you're doing it, when you're doing it.
And we should definitely say, you don't have to be a film major and have majored and gone to school to TV film or gone to Full Sail University, even though those educations are amazing and they're really great education to have if that's what you really want. But you can teach yourself. You can put yourself in the scenario. You can get hands-on experience. You can reach out. You can teach yourself at home. You can make your own videos, make them with friends. Get to that point. You can really be self-taught as well, and that education and level of experience and skill is just as valuable. And I think for someone like you, talking to other musicians or more established musicians that are in the middle of doing music videos and trying to work with them and saying, like, hey, can I come to set, or can I help out, and helping out on their stuff and see how they got their vision, and talking to them from pre-production to post-production and being like, how do you think this is going to look? And then even coming onto the set with them, and then afterwards, after it's all done in post, being like, do you think that your vision came across clearly? And if it didn't, tell me why.
Like, the other comment,
be honest.
the other reason why I love this field is you don't have to be qualified. Like what Chandler was saying.
Formally qualified.
Formally
Yeah,
qualified.
formally qualified.
They still will respect you
Yeah.
if you don't have the proper qualifications. I mean, there
Yeah.
are many famous directors and
Dude, like, on the crew that we were on, I couldn't tell who went to film school or didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea.
yeah.
The only reason I found out who is the people I added on Facebook, they might have it
Yeah.
in their education. Like, but I have
For
no
people-
idea. I can't tell. You know
For
what I mean?
people like our first AD, Cuba, who is amazing and did a great job, and he spent 12 years on TV sets. So he spent 12 years.
He also went to Full Sail,
first AD, and he went to Full
Did he
Sail
really?
University.
That's so crazy.
And he was saying,
You also know Scott Tice.
yes,
I
he
love
went to high
Tice,
school with
yeah.
Scott Tice, and he
That's so
went
crazy.
straight to him when he started to make music. Shout out to Scott Tice, he's amazing. But
nice.
he went to Full Sail University, and he said he's still learning things that he went to Full Sail and never even learned there
Yeah.
yet, because you go through things, and it's just like your knowledge on things constantly has to update. What's industry standard could not be industry standard anymore. There's new updates and terminology, especially now post COVID-19. It's a whole new world on how things are going to get done, and so you can teach yourself. I mean, that formal education, great, but if you don't have that or the money or the opportunity to do that, or you're starting a little late in the game, teaching yourself and getting that hands-on experience just as valuable. And we recommend anybody start reaching out online, on LinkedIn, joining their local film consortiums. In Lehigh Valley, we've got Route 22 Filmworks and FIFO, and then there's, for only an hour and a half drive, you've got the Philadelphia stuff. There's Pittsburgh. Like, there's stuff nearby. You just have to go out and find it. No one's people may not knock on your door and say, hey, we heard you want to be a director. You can be a director.
Have the
But
initiative,
the opportunities are there if you go out and find them and just walk out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, Zach, I mean, you're one of the only people from our film program that, was going to FIFO and was trying to be there and trying to make those connections and trying to, and like, I'll be honest, like we noticed that, like, it's like, oh shit, like this is, you know what I mean? And that's such a big part of it. It's, some people think that, like, in both of the fields, some people think that, like, that 100% of the battle is just like making your stuff and then it'll just come. Like the people just knock on your door. Here's the record deal. Here's you can direct this Hollywood budgeted film. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like, you have to play the game. You have to make connections. You have to network, and that's where the majority of that comes from. So, it's just
You can't be taught that in school either.
you can't be taught that in school. They don't teach that in school.
they could.
They don't teach that. They also
It's a weird, ambiguous thing, though, because
Right.
even like I said, like I would imagine that you and I are similar, where like I said, like I'm very like timid and anxious, like in environments like that,
Of course.
and so it's like contextually, like it's very different for each person how they might approach
Right.
that
It's different
process.
every
You know what I
time.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to like. It's almost like it can't be taught. Like you have to figure it out for yourself. What works for you, the mindset you have to put yourself in.
And then there's the whole thing. The formal education is super important too, because like to have that foundation, like you were saying earlier, is so important when you do get that opportunity.
Especially in
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Especially in music.
Yeah.
Music, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, at least in my experience, is such a more ambiguous thing to where knowing the theory helps so much more.
It does.
You know what I mean? Because it's like this.
But you can
It's in this ether. It's like how you can't. How do you?
There has to be a balance there,
Yeah.
because like if you rely too much on theory, then like
and you can never.
I mean, there's some,
technical.
that we did that. Like I printed out a paper of piano chords just so
Exactly.
people, you know what I mean? It's stuff like
there's that, but then you could just like press a bunch of keys, and if it sounds
and you
Yeah.
can figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can never really plan how everything's going to go. Pre-production is extremely important. Then you can get on set and it doesn't exactly work out that way. It's different. It's different in practice, and it's the same thing with your formal education and your formal knowledge. You may go to apply that, and that preparation really great. But when you go to apply that, the application a lot different. Watching YouTube videos is going to be a lot different. So that hands-on experience is so valuable.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that does comment on like what I was saying. It's like the knowledge that I gained, like going into like before I even touched any type of film class, even in high school, I just watched a film. I didn't.
Mm.
I just watched movies, TV shows, and
That's how we
I
all
watched a
start.
lot of them.
That's how we all
And then
start.
I got some exposure, and I saw things differently. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
wow.
You're like part of a secret club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Right.
see things
Right.
that other people don't see.
Yeah.
You know?
I was, I listened to music for so long, and music was such a big part of my experience in life. And, getting to the point where I could create a little bit of that magic
Mhm.
is like such a crazy thing. It's a superpower, to be
yeah.
able to grab a little bit of that and have that for yourself and hold on to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And speaking of music, because I also have a degree in that, and I took classes with Tice. I love him. We all. Worship Tice. I do.
We're tagging Tyson this one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there are a lot of little things that a lot of people, even just casual music listeners, don't pick up in the
Mhm.
process. But once you have that process and experience, you're just like, oh, I noticed like every little
Exactly.
instrument and how they blend together. Like,
Same with film.
Mhm.
like we'd have like 3-hour classes, and Tice would be like showing us different intricate parts just for like this small little clip.
Mhm.
And then he plays that clip over, like he solos the tracks, and then he plays all the instruments in one, and you're just like, I didn't realize that.
Exactly.
And then now
Yeah.
that I listen to like even audio and movies, which is a very deep, intricate thing, because that's one of the parts that drew me to audio is I loved digital design, or not digital. What was the class? What was the class? Digital design?
No, it's digital
So
design.
you're right. You're
With
Okay.
Tice?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
one where you're just putting audio to video. You were able to build a scene.
Oh, is that audio?
That's I forget what it's called, but yeah. It's
Yeah. I took it with
Sound-
Lizzie.
Sound design.
Sound design, yeah. Class of sound, someone.
Yeah.
Is one big part that I enjoyed of that class is where we took just normal clips for video, stripped all the sound, and then we build the sound ourselves.
Oh,
That's what
is so
in-
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very fun to me,
Yeah.
and that's what drew me to audio is like the intricate, just even like small little things change a scene. Just small little sounds can change an entire feel of a scene, which helps it. Just like how camera position can change an entire scene and message. Yeah.
That project that I did for that class is still my favorite thing. Where we had to take like a scene and take all the sound out.
Oh, and then we recorded it ourselves.
Yeah.
Didn't you do the B movie?
No,
I wish.
no, I did
Wait, which one did
Put
you?
that
which
on the
scene did you do?
portfolio.
a scene from Until Dawn. The game.
I
Oh,
remember that. Oh, dude, I remember.
I
that.
did Power Rangers.
Yo, that's such a good.
That's-
I did the Forever Red scene, and I got the entire,
Damn,
like all the guys in the class, even
Yeah.
Tice, to record some audio for it.
that's so
And
rad.
it's
dude.
still hands down one of my favorite
Dude,
projects.
can I
'cause we
see that?
Yeah, it's still it's
Hey,
crazy.
man, no, I love. I grew
But
up
I
watching
can- I
Power
have it on my
Rangers,
drive.
Like,
Oh my god, Power Rangers!
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yo, Power Rangers. Wait.
That
What's
was,
going on?
Yo, we got
What's
some Scooby
happening?
Doo Power.
yeah.
I just had a stroke
it's
from all the
ridiculous.
Power Rangers talk.
Yo, can't relate.
Can't relate.
All right, well,
I mean,
guys.
we can cut it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Poorly Edited Podcast, and I hope you gleaned some level of information or insight that is helpful to you. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep pursuing what you want to be doing in any way, shape, or form that comes, and stay motivated, stay hype, and have fun. Honestly, seriously, have fun. And this is Poorly Ed Podcast signing out. I'm Chandler Davis. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And you can catch other episodes on streaming platforms everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Tidal, Deezer, depending on what country you're in.
We love that.
Motor Trend on Demand.
Yeah.
Slacker Radio.
Yes.
Again, OnlyFans.
iHeartRadio,
Napster,
yeah,
question
OnlyFans, Napster. I think actually, no, Napster for real, Napster for
No
real,
way,
Napster
okay.
for real.
LimeWire.
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 Yeah,
Oh,
I pirated it on LimeWire.
MySpace.
Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Lab212 on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that. Twitch. We stream. Also, we have merch coming out soon. We're printing merch. This camera I'm looking at is right next to the merch station. Zach's wearing a shirt. Josh is wearing a shirt. We made custom masks. We got the whole nine. Lizzie just worked on this shirt.
Here, pass
We
it
got
to me.
this. We got this.
Crop
We got this new shirt.
Oh, I was gonna say pass it to me.
Here, here.
Oh, yeah.
We got this. We got this new shirt.
It's not.
It's this ghost.
Should I model?
We
Yeah, my mom, stand up.
Are we hawking our?
We got this
merch
this crop top, tank top,
Feeling it weird.
and
Guys, come on, come on.
oh god. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's like
It's got this ghost on it and whatever.
Frank.
His name's
His
Frank.
name is Frank.
Anyway, we got a lot more of that coming. We got this sticker on this that you can't see.
You can't.
Um,
I mean, I
we
can
got
pull out
stickers.
I can pull out stickers from my pocket.
It's rad. Yeah, you have, why?
Stickers?
Why do you have stickers in your pocket?
Stickers? I don't even have stickers.
It's weird.
You guys have stickers on Friday?
Nice.
Yeah.
Why are they all
That-
Why are they
crumbled
bad,
up?
man?
that-
Yeah.
Zach,
Hey.
Rosie worked so hard.
He
on
hasn't
this.
worn those
Look at that.
shorts since
Crumbled them up.
last time he was here.
He's laughing because it's true. He's like, I know. He's like, these are the pants I wear on Monday.
Come on now.
These are my Monday
These are my
pants.
Mondays.
All right, we should probably wrap this.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a wrap.
That's
people.
it. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
That's it.
Bye.
Stop watching, please.
All right, now we can all take turns standing in front of the air conditioner.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So Josh, you're first.